So in the last video, I put together sort of a highlight video of sorts of discussion points and chats and stuff from a stream I did, where I talked about the One Piece live action content that I had seen. But we only talked about episodes 1 to 6, and I thought it was a great discussion. Like I said, I just uploaded it a couple of weeks ago, but I said during that because at that point I hadn't finished the series, I still had to watch episodes 7 and 8, I would be putting a follow-up video out, and that is this video. I have since finished the One Piece live action Season 2. I've talked about it on stream as well, but I wanted to actually, properly, this is not gonna be a super long video, but I just wanted to talk about episodes 7 and 8, and the season as a whole, and certain things I found interesting about it, or worth discussing. Because again, I think that talking about One Piece live action is really interesting, as long as you don't go super, unless you genuinely think this, but I think that discussion is interesting, as long as, you take a sort of nuanced approach and an honest approach and aren't super biased and super extreme one way or another, because in that case I don't find there's much to discuss there. But here, I think there's really, really interesting things to talk about. Again, the majority of which I've already talked about in that first video, but more to talk about here. So, yeah, I've watched 7 and 8, episodes 7 and 8, the rest of the Drum Island adaptation, and let's start with episode 7. I thought it was the best episode in One Piece live action, full stop. Out of the 16 episodes we've seen, this was the best one. I love the choice to dedicate a whole thing basically to the flashback, the Drum Island flashback, Hiriluk and Chopper, and Kureha, but specifically those two, and really diving into the nuances of that backstory and the thematics and how they connect with the full series, and just the emotions and the beautiful land, aesthetically beautiful but sort of corrupt land of Drum Island, and really immersing you in there. I thought the not just for this is the case for episodes 6 to 8, but in general, specifically for episode 7. The music was beautiful. It was very wintry, very mystical, lots of bells and piano and chimes. It was very kind of, the vibes of kind of Home Alone, or the Christmas tracks for Harry Potter or something like that. Very John Williams-esque winter seasonal Christmas inspired, which is great because I think that's exactly what the atmosphere of Drum Island is, but it has that darker tinge because of the corruption within. So I thought the music was great. I thought the visuals were very good. I criticized Logtown for not quite feeling as grand as I felt it should have felt. It's not that it felt tiny. There were some cool bits of set design and stuff. I don't think it was awful or anything, but it did feel smaller than I felt it should have. Drum Island, totally no concerns there. I think the establishing shots of the full island look great. The different towns, the mountains, the different locales, the snowy trees, the valleys, the castles, everything. I totally bought Drum Island as a dense, big island in setting, and I think episode 7 did so much to establish that, in addition to episode 6. But more than anything, I just think the flashback was fantastically done. Like I said in the first video, Chopper, specifically his normal small form, the CGI, the voice work, the character acting, and the expressiveness on the face, and the little eccentricities and movements of the body were unbelievable. They're adorable, but they're also it melds well and blends well with the environments and the live action, real people. And I was really hesitant about if that would happen. I didn't know if that would work out well, but it did. I thought Chopper looked great. The voice is so good for Chopper. So Chopper was fantastic. I really have no complaints and nothing but great things to say about that. Hiriluk, my god, in the conversation for the best portrayal in the adaptation, in the live action adaptation, the best performance in the conversation for just generally the best example of bringing the character to life. To me, that was Hiruluk. I think it maybe polished a bit of the rough edges he had. He was maybe a bit more mean in places, or I guess like rough in places in the manga, but I don't think that did anything to detract from the character. It was just a bit of a different take, and the spirit of the character was super on point. I thought he was fantastic. I bought all the emotion. The actor was fantastic. He seems like a really sweet guy as well. I've seen a couple of interviews for the actor for Hiruluk. I don't remember his name, but he was so good. All the moments nailed, and I think Hiruluk is a character in One Piece that really solidifies an important thematic and character-based legacy. Hiruluk's words of "when does a man die" are essential for the whole series. He's one of the most important characters in the whole series, as far as I'm concerned. I truly think that. I think his words echo forward to Kaido in Wano. You know, I think they echo forward to the current day. In we're currently at chapter 1170 something. So, Hiruluk's one of the most important characters to me in One Piece, and I think they really, really nailed it. While I could criticize certain roles or portrayals, and I might do so in this video, I have in the previous one, I will give credit where it's due, and Hiruluk and Chopper are two of the best, coming to life of those characters. And those two are the centerpiece here, with the horribly horrific, but also deeply emotional and uplifting backstory. It just made for a fantastic episode. It had me choked up. It really did. It really did. And Kureha, and Dalton both played their roles as well. Yeah, so as it stands for me, the top 3 episodes of Season 2 are 2 for the amazing Bink Sake integration. I think they really do a good job with Laboon. All that sort of thing I talked about before. 6, I really like 6 as an introduction to Drum Island. I think it's really good and does some really cool, subtle things, but also grand things and great moments for several characters. And 7's my favorite, but that's my top 3. Now, having said that, there's Episode 8, and I thought Episode 8 was decent. It was okay. I think they did certain things very right. I think they did I really liked the blossoming, the cherry blossoms, you know, the big spread, the emotional apex of the arc where Chopper cries and we see the cherry blossoms, harkening back to Hiruluk's story and the flashback. That moment was fantastic. I really liked it, and I love Zoro just grabbing Chopper and putting him up on his shoulder, because I really do enjoy Zoro and Chopper's dynamic. It's minimalistic, but it's very there, and Zoro is such a great older brother to him. And I love that moment. I think there were great. There were bits throughout that I enjoyed. I don't know how to feel about Chopper's, I never know, I always forget what it's called, the bigger form for Chopper. It's very off-putting, and it's very clearly a human in a suit, I think, unless I'm completely misremembering or misunderstanding, or I don't know, unless I'm just wrong. And it's really off-putting, but I kind of cringe when I see it, but I think that's kind of intentional. It's not meant to be super cute. That's what the original form's for. So I don't really have anything to say about it. I just found it funny how off-putting I found it, and I think that's part of the intention. But some interesting notes throughout. Wapol, I've seen a lot of people really gushing about Wapol in the live action. I think he's done all right. I think the actor did a good job with the material he had. Some of the effects were a bit, I don't know, but he really gets the character across well. He understands the character well. I wasn't enamored with Wapol, and for a reason I'll get into in a second, I think he was a little more shallow than he is in the manga. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Wapol's a masterful character. And people, we have a bit of a stream meme with Wapol, and the Wapol bench and all that stuff, which is fun, and he's a menace. He's a disgusting person. He's a B tier character. He's a good villain who I think is very important for Drum Island, but he's not a masterpiece. Nonetheless, I do think he has some depth, which was lost in the live action. I'll get into that in a second. I think Vivi had some nice moments. I like that Sanji and Chopper had some good interactions. I liked the importance placed on Nami. There was just good stuff throughout. Some good cinematography. There was a great shot, silhouetted against the moon, you know what I mean? And I really liked the party at the end. I think some of the best work the live action does is capturing the spirit of the Straw Hats in interactions, and then bouncing off one another and it being incredibly insane and off the wall, and the party was a great example of that. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, lots of great bits throughout episode 8. However, there were some bits I didn't like as much. I don't really know how to explain this. I'm not a critic. I think I can explain my problems with things decently enough when I have to, but this one is out of my wheelhouse. I don't really know how to describe my problems with this, but the action scene of Sanji and Chopper fighting the grunts in the castle while Nami's behind the table, I don't know how to describe it, but that was so weird and off-putting, and the choreography and the framing of that fight felt like it was incredibly forced to me. It felt very weird and bizarre and unnatural, and the situations felt incredibly forced. Like the fights didn't feel natural. The flow of the fights didn't feel like they were natural things happening, and I didn't buy. Like, it felt like the actors were getting into positions for the choreography to happen in the way it did. You know, I don't even remember what exactly it was, but let's say Sanji has to jump off a wall to hit this guy so that him and Chopper are next to each other, and the enemies are sandwiched against each other or something. I'm just making that up. That isn't actually what happened, but you know what I mean. A good natural flow of scenes and choreography will have that feel natural. This felt like the actors were getting into position constantly for these wacky encounters to happen, and it just felt off and weird, and I don't know, that whole scene was really, the whole action sequence didn't really do it for me, and I found myself just being like, that is bad. I wasn't engaged. I was kind of taken out of it. It was jarring. I don't know if anyone else felt that way. I just found it a strange scene. Anyway, the scene with Luffy fighting Wapol was fine, and Vivi was there too. But there is, and I do like Zoro's bits with Dalton, and Zoro and Usopp's bits of dialogue back and forth where Usopp apologizes for kind of snapping at Zoro. Those are good bits of interpersonal relationships and friction, and very, very human elements to their relationship that is natural and fitting for both characters, and Vivi kind of in the middle of it. Great stuff. Another sort of criticism I had was, I talked about the scene in episode 6 where Sanji's at Nami's bedside, and you can very clearly tell he's having some sort of, he's feeling triggered, and he's because of the trauma he associates with people at their sickbed, because of what happened to his mom. He is feeling that again, seeing Nami in mortal peril and taking care of her. And what I love about that scene is it doesn't overplay anything. It doesn't over-explain. It just, for anyone who knows about Sanji, and down the line, people who only know the live action will learn this about Sanji, I'm sure, in one way or another. But for anyone who, like, going back and seeing this scene, for anyone who understands the context of Sanji's character, you get it. You get why he feels this way. You get why he's so taken aback. Obviously, everyone's worried about Nami, but Sanji is extra taken aback by it. He's extra worried about it because it reflects on the tumultuous emotional trauma he had of his past. As the one person, or one of the two people, but the one person who gave him basically unconditional love was kind of taken from him. He's reflecting back on that, and it's obviously devastating. But he doesn't say it, because Sanji is fundamentally a broken person at the start of the series who avoids being vulnerable, avoids leaning on others, thinks of himself as a burden, thinks of being vulnerable with others as a weakness that he cannot afford, and as something that will not lead to any happiness or any fulfillment. He's scared. He's scared of sharing. He's scared of leaning on people. And that's what I love about that scene, because he doesn't say anything. He doesn't do anything that would be out of character for Sanji at this point in the series. However, there was another scene in episode 8 where Sanji just says everything. Not everything, but he says a great deal about his upbringing, about his mother, about caring for her, and the implications about losing her. He tells Nami all of this stuff. And it's well acted. It's well shot. There's some parallels with Chopper that are good. In a vacuum, it's a good scene, and it's technically well done. But the thing is, this is just another, I guess, point to nail home that this isn't Sanji. Live-action Sanji is not anime/manga Sanji. Obviously, there's no world or reality where they're going to be able to adapt every arc in the series. I think they're going to have to stop at Annie's Lobby or something, maybe. I don't know where exactly. But they're not going to do the whole series. I'd be surprised if they did all the pre-time skips, just because of the realities of shooting a show like this. I think they've done a great job doing however many chapters they've done in 2 seasons, in 16 episodes, and they're going to do Alabasta next season. But for logistics, from a logistics standpoint, I could even see it ending at Skypiea. I doubt it, but I could see it happening. And it's just not feasible. So I think ending at Annie's Lobby is a generally natural point for it to end. The point is, we will not, I highly doubt we'll get to Whole Cake Island where we get this stuff for Sanji, or Wano, where Sanji properly applies the things he learned in Whole Cake Island, to be reliant on a Straw Hat for the first time and beg for help, which is not a weakness at all. It's a strength and a beautiful thing with Robin. We're not going to get there, so they have to truncate it. They have to rearrange certain things to make Sanji's character and his past be a factor earlier, and I get that, and that's maybe part of why they're doing this, but there is very little focus on the fact that Sanji is so guarded, so broken, so repellent of the idea of leaning on people. He gets triggered by Nami, and without much prodding or anything, he just tells her and pours his heart out to her. And that's not Sanji. This is something that someone who's very open about his past, very healthy, someone not characterized by volatile extremes would do. And he kind of just does it. He kind of just talks about his trauma that he seems to have honestly, like, obviously it's affecting him deeply, but the way they go about it, it makes it seem like Sanji's just gotten over it. Sorry, he's not gotten over it, but he's capable of talking about it in a relatively healthy way. And that's not Sanji. Not at all until way later in the series. So, I didn't really like that scene. I liked the earlier scene a lot because it didn't say that stuff. It stayed in character. It did all that. And this, I think, is just a byproduct of them changing Sanji's character and truncating certain elements long-term of the series. And I didn't really like it because of that. It is what it is. It was still a good scene. It was still well done. It just wasn't really Sanji. That I know. It's a different Sanji. It's a live-action Sanji. Outside of that, there was the scene where Luffy tells Chopper, just shut up and join us, which in the manga I love, because the panel for that is really beautiful. It's sort of a bit of a fisheye lens or a Dutch angle. It's very exaggerated perspective, and Luffy and Chopper are kind of decently far apart, and they're outside, and there's and it's snowing, and there's a nice amount of scope to the panel. In this one, he kind of just screams at him inside the throne room. The lighting is kind of dark and dreary. He's kind of right in front of Chopper, and it just came off as kind of weird and rude. I didn't really like that moment as much. It didn't translate well to live action, which is a shame because I think it's a really great moment, but I think it's another example of how certain elements of Luffy in the anime and manga, it's hard to make them work in live action. It really is, and Don't get me wrong, I think they do a good job sometimes, and it's a very hard thing to do, to translate Luffy well to live action. I just think this is an example of why it's hard. And the last thing I think to mention is, one of my favorite things about Drum Island is how it dwells on leadership. Kingship, but specifically leadership. One more thing is I liked the reverie scene that they added in. I think that's another example of adding things in earlier to truncate it because they're going to have to do it. Obviously there's stuff about that in the manga, but I think they expanded upon it in really interesting ways that I enjoyed. That aside, though, one of my favorite things about Drum Island is how it dwells on leadership and how it is the establishing thesis for how the series tackles leadership and kingship down the line. What makes a king? What makes a leader? Why is Vivi a great leader, and why is Luffy a flawed leader who has to learn? Why is Cobra a great leader? Why are the likes of Doflamingo an embarrassment of a leader? Why are the likes of Crocodile or Wapple specifically here horrible leaders? And Drum Island does a lot with examining what leadership is, what kingship is, and what defines what a good leader is. I think it does a lot of examining of that through Vivi's talk with Luffy about his flaws as a leader, how he was too reckless, through really examining and contrasting Wapple with Vivi, through and Dalton. Dalton's a big part of that too. And all that stuff, I really think that it imbues itself and permeates itself throughout the manga in various ways. I don't think they had as much of a focus on that in live action, which I think made... it's there for sure, but I think it's feebler and more underlying than the manga. And I think as a result, it makes Wapple a bit less effective of a villain. And that's what I was talking about earlier. I don't think it's as clear that he is meant to be this crazy antithesis that is, diametric. Whereas I think in the manga, it was more prominent, I guess. So, yeah, a bit of a mixed bag for Episode 8. But overall, I had a great time with the One Piece live action. It's very interesting to talk about the problems, it's very interesting to talk about the things it does very well, and everything in between. And, I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed certain elements of it. It was a good time, and I think it's an upgrade on Season 1, and I'm really excited to see what they do for Season 3. They're already filming. I think there was just an announcement this morning that it'll be out in 2027, so not a huge wait. So I'm really looking forward to see what they do. Again, just to sum up, Vivi, I think, has done very well. I think the actress does a great job in getting across how heartfelt she is, and I think she's quite good. I summed up my thoughts on all the actors outside of Vivi, but I just wanted to reinforce that in addition to Hero Look and Chopper. Kureha was quite good. Dalton was fine. He was a bit... he didn't quite have as much as he did in the manga, which I think is too bad. But what he did have was good, and I think the actor did a good job. And yeah, the rest of the cast, pretty much what I said before. All in all, a really entertaining, fun, campy, self-aware adaptation that I think does quite a few things that are very impressive. And even though there are problems and there's friction and all that sort of thing, I never expected it to be perfect. I never idealized it as something that will exactly capture my image of what One Piece is, because that's impossible. Now, that doesn't mean you can't criticize it, which I have, but all in all, I'm really glad this adaptation exists. I have a lot of fun with it. I love discussing it. I watch it with my parents, and it's just such a cool, magical experience to be able to talk about Zoro with my mom and Nami with my dad. It's just weird, and I love it, and that alone makes me thankful for this adaptation. Anyways, feel free to share your thoughts if you have any. If you've been in streams, none of this is news to you, but I wanted to get this out there. Thank you so much for watching. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.